Why, hello there, folks. This is Travis P. Nile, the lead singer of the world-famous and critically acclaimed band British Fish Productions. And today, I am here to be doing another rant. Now, what am I going to be ranting about today? You ask. Well, I am going to be ranting about, I did before. I did rants about PE class. I did 3 rants about that. They were about separate units: the swimming unit, the social dance unit, and the wrestling unit. All terrible units. Very, very terrible units. This time I am going to be doing a rant about another one of my classes. However, this time I will not be separating it into unit. I'm just going to be doing one rant about the whole class. So, what class am I going to be ranting about? You ask. Well, I'll tell you. Let me give you a hint. Well, actually, you don't need a hint, because the title, you'll be able to see the title. So you're already gonna know. But I didn't think about that. The title's gonna be there. But so I guess you don't need the hint. I was going to say that it's about that the teacher for the class has been featured in some of my songs, but you don't need that hint because the title's there, which I've already said many times. So let me just stop rambling and get to the video. It's of course about Mr. Runyon's, Daddy Runyon, as I like to call him, Daddy Runyon's environmental science class. So this class, okay, so as you guys know, when I was 14 years old, I had a little incident. My knee was fucked up. I had to go to the hospital, and I was there like a month. And so they thought it was cancer. We've been through this story before. And then what happened is, when I got back, when I left the hospital, I didn't go straight back to school afterwards. What happened was, I still was really fucked up. I had to go home. I had this IV attached to me at home. I had to wear an IV thingy around my neck. And I also, I had to use a walker because I am too stupid. I couldn't figure out how to use the crutches because I am a highly unintelligent individual, and I couldn't figure out how to use the crutches properly. That's what you usually wear. That's what you usually use when you fuck up your leg or something, but, I'm too stupid to figure out how to use those. So I had to use a walker instead. 14 years old, using a walker. And then, so I was there at home. I couldn't really walk, so I couldn't go back to school straight away after I got to the hospital. So in addition to being at the hospital for 3 weeks or something, I was at school. Not school. Why did I say school? I was at home school. Kind of homeschool. Kind of. But I was at home for 3 weeks, additional home week. What they did is they had a tutor or something like that worked at the hospital and would come to the place, to my residence, and teach me things. But you know what's the problem? You know what is the problem? That fucking piece of shit, Mr. Runyon. He was being a very uncooperative person. Because you know what he would do? Mr. Runyon would not. So what the teacher is supposed to do is send work to the tutor. Tell them what the assignments are that they're doing in class, so that we can do that at home. But Mr. Runyon didn't want to do that because, according to Mr. Runyon, in our class, we don't use the textbook. we don't use the textbook in my class. It's all lab assignments. We all do labs. Well, Mr. Runyon, that's not my fault that you don't use the textbook, Mr. Runyon. I mean, why would you not use a textbook? Isn't that kind of weird? Like, I mean, they made a textbook for environmental science for a reason, Mr. Runyon. It's there. You're supposed to use it, Mr. Runyon. It exists for a reason, but he doesn't use it for some reason. And he was being very stubborn, and he did not want to give the assignments. He was like, oh, well, he can't do the assignments at home because, we do labs. It's just, so, he's going to fall incredibly behind because there's just no way he can do it at home, the labs. And then the tutor was fighting with him all the time, trying to get him, Mr. Runyon, just send some fucking stuff based on the textbook. I mean, who the fuck cares? It does not have to be a lab, Mr. Runyon. I mean, this person cannot be at school. Just, like, make an exception this one time. But he was very stubborn. It's like, no, I can't. We can't do that. It's not, it doesn't give you a scientific experience that way, You have to get it hands-on. That's how you learn the scientific method, through labs. You don't just learn it through a textbook. But eventually, he gave in. And he finally gave some assignments based on the textbook. But, then, because he gave it right at the last minute, and I had to do them all super quick. But, it worked out well enough. So I got like a B on the total, I'm bad at words. What the fuck? A collection or whatever the fuck of assignments. Collectively, I got a B for those things that we did at the tutoring thing at my house. And then, so finally, after doing all that, my knee is fixed. I don't have to wear an IV anymore. I don't have to use the walker anymore. And I can walk on water. No, I can't walk on water, but I can walk like a normal person. And so I finally went back to school. And I must say, I was not very excited about coming back, and having to deal with Mr. Runyon, because he has already proved himself to be a quite stubborn and difficult person to deal with. And I was like, oh boy, this is really what I'm going to have to deal with for a fucking school year. Oh my fucking god. But I had a meeting with him, a very brief meeting with him, like at break, on the first day when I came back. And, he called me and was like, hey Travis, can I speak to you a little bit? I said, oh, okay, I guess. And I went into his office. And he actually seemed pretty nice. And I was like, maybe this guy, isn't so bad. He was like, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I misjudged him. Maybe he's not that bad after all. I mean, he seems pretty nice from this. But then, I was fooled. He fooled me, because later I found out the true Mr. Runyon, where he starts going on. He has a very weird, his class is structured very strange, very unusual. As he would put it, because the first 15 minutes of his class, all he does is read from the newspaper. He has a whole fucking, he has some news story that he printed out. Either that, some news story he printed from the internet, or he has the actual newspaper, and he reads it to us, and many times he has 30 fucking individual copies of the story, and he makes us all take one, and read it along with him, and he spends the first 15 minutes just reading some random story from the news. Now, a few things about this. First of all, for an environmentalist, that does not seem very good for the environment, always printing out papers, in my opinion. I mean, wouldn't you want to, if you care about the environment so much, like Mr. Runyon claims to, wouldn't you want to save paper? I mean, wouldn't you want to say, like, why do you have to, like, be, and realize, these are like 30 individual pieces of paper he's printing out of the same fucking story, and he's printing new things, new stories every day. So every day, he's like printing out 30 fucking pieces of paper. Every day, 30 pieces of paper. Every day, 30 pieces of paper. I mean, come on, Mr. Runyon, that's not very environmentally conscious. I mean, using all that paper, what are the poor trees, man? You're fucking chopping down all those trees for the papers in Mr. Runyon's fucking science class, all the fucking same shit. I mean, why does every individual student have to have their own individual paper, Mr. Runyon? Why can't you just read it? I mean, we have ears, we can hear what we're saying, what you are saying. Everyone doesn't need their own individual paper. Now, that's the first thing that's wrong with it. The second thing that's wrong with it is that this has nothing to do with the fucking class. It's nothing to do with science. It's just some random fucking shit from the news. And this has no relevance to anything in the actual curriculum. There's no, like, everything that he reads in the first 15 minutes, and it's 15 minutes is what it usually is. Sometimes it's 20 minutes, sometimes it's 30 minutes. Sometimes he spends the whole fucking period on this shit, but none of it has anything to do with the actual class. There's no, you could, like, be sleeping, like, the whole fucking time, and it wouldn't matter, except for Mr. Runyon getting mad at you and complaining at you, but it wouldn't matter for the actual things, the actual assignments in the class, because he has no assignments on these fucking things. Like, there's no, like thing, like, when we have a quiz or something, there's no thing where he brings up in the quiz, like, something that he read from these newspapers. There's nothing like that, so it's just, like, random shit. I don't know why he's wasting our time reading these newspapers if he's not going to incorporate it into the grade. It's very strange, very unusual. I don't understand it. And then, another thing he does, so he does that, then he makes us do all these fucking stupid labs. And they're not even, like, real, like, proper science labs. Like, he makes us do, like, these weird, like, fucking, like, things where we go outside, like, every, like, Thursday or something, or every, like, other Thursday or something like that. And he makes us go outside, and he, like, makes us record the weather, or, like, and there's, like, a whole bunch of fucking things we have to, like, fill out, like, on the weather, like, are there clouds, like, what's this, like, a whole bunch of fucking shit, like, and he makes us, like, record the weather. Very strange. I mean, who the fuck cares about the weather? And so he makes us do that, or he makes us, like, do, like, things, or we have to, like, make something with, like, a piece of paper. I don't know. Once he had us do some weird thing with coins. You know, it's hard to remember exactly what the assignments were, but I remember them all being very stupid. Then he has these weird, like, things. One thing that's very annoying about Mr. Runyon is that he has these weird, like, he has two, like, default responses when you say something to him, and they completely contradict each other. Like, oftentimes he will say, "Hey, class!" Like, once I asked him, like, he always says, "You know, if you don't understand, what we're doing, you're always free to ask questions. You know, you're always free to ask questions. But if you ask him a question, then he says, oh, well, you should have been paying attention in class. You know, why don't you know this? I mean, you should have been paying attention. I mean, you know, instead of goofing around all the time, you know, this is why you're falling incredibly behind, because you don't pay attention." But first of all, he didn't even teach it in the class. So I was paying attention, but he never even said how to do it. But then, that's the thing, is that he says, oh, ask questions, but then when you do ask a question, he says, oh, wait, you should have been paying attention. And then, so, if because of that, you don't know how to do it, and then you do it wrong, then he says, oh, you're doing it wrong. And then you say, yeah, because I don't know how to do this shit. And then he says, well, you should have asked a question. But Mr. Runyon, you fucking piece of shit, when I ask you a question, you just say, oh, wait, you should have been paying attention. You don't actually answer the fucking question. That's the problem with Mr. Runyon. Fucking Mr. Runyon, you piece of shit. And then, another thing, one good thing I did like about that class was that in the quarter, you know, that thing is, I was very bad at that class because he doesn't fucking teach. He says, like, one time, he gave us, first of all, one time he gave us, like, math shit in that class. And first of all, why is he giving us math? Because it's not a fucking math class. It's a science class. It's an environmental science class. Why is he giving us math fucking assignments? But then, like, one of the students asked, hey, Mr. Runyon, how the fuck do you do this shit? Because, like, they didn't know how to do it. And then Mr. Runyon says, oh, well, you should know how to do this. This is, you know, 4th grade scales right here. These are 4th grade scales. But here's the thing. No one in the fucking class knew how to do this shit. So, I mean, either all of our 4th grade teachers fucking suck, or this one particular 9th grade teacher sucks. Now, which seems more likely? That all those individual 4th grade teachers suck, or that it's just this one fucking teacher that sucks? I think it's the latter that's more likely. So, he refuses to teach fucking shit. And then, so I did so bad in that class. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing in that class. Whenever we're doing something, I'm like, what the fuck is this? But I was saved. Luckily, I was saved in that class because Mr. Runyon had a scheme. He had this interesting thing. This is the one thing I liked about Mr. Runyon. He had this great idea that we're going to be put into groups. Oh, I love this. Groups of 4 or 5, something like that. And this is what I really, really liked. At the end of the quarter, what he does is, instead of giving us, what he does is, for the final, test, for the final, and the final is really important. It's like a big fucking chunk of the grade in that class. Instead of just giving us, an individual grade, he takes all the students in our group and he averages out the grade that we got on the test. So each grade that the student got on the final, he puts them all and he takes the average. And so he gives you which one is higher. So if you scored higher if your grade is better just individual than the group average, then he gives you the individual one. But if the group average is the higher score, then he gives you the group average grade. So that's the one thing I really liked about that class. And that's the only reason I passed the first semester of that class, was because I got lucky and I got with some people in the group that actually know how to do shit and are intelligent, unlike me. And so I got a reasonable score on the final thanks to that great idea by Mr. Runyon. And that's how I magically passed the second semester. Now, the one bad part, or I don't know if it's really bad, I mean, depends on how you look at it. Depends on your perspective. Could be good, could be bad, you know. It's up in the air. depends on your viewpoint, where you are, your circumstances. But maybe I should put it like this: the one risky part, the one gamble about his idea is that he changes it every quarter. So you've got a new group every quarter. And now that really, it could be, because if, let's say, you had a whole bunch of fucking idiots in your group, and you're a fucking idiot too, it could be good because maybe your next group is a bunch of smart people. But it could also be bad because if you are a fucking idiot like me, and you're with a bunch of smart people, and then you get moved into a group with a bunch of fucking people like you, then that is not so good. And that's what happened to me, unfortunately. And I was like, oh, fuck, this is not good. Do you know what? These people in my new group were not very nice people. One of these people, very rude individuals, actually. This guy had a piece of gum, chewing a piece of gum, and then this piece of shit fucking throws it at me, and guess where it lands? In my hair. And then I'm trying to get this fucking gum out of my hair. And then Mr. Runyon, some kid just put gum in my hair, and then Mr. Runyon gets mad at me. What the fuck, Mr. Runyon? Why the fuck would you get mad at me? And then he not only gets mad at me, he sends me to the fucking back of the class. He's like, he's in front of the whole class. He's like, Travis, go to the back of the class. Mr. Runyon, why the fuck do I have to go to the back of the class? What the fuck did I do? Like, because he's like, oh, Travis, what are you doing? Because he sees I'm not doing my work, because I'm trying to get this fucking shit out of my hair. He's like, Travis, go to the back of the class. Why wouldn't you put the person that put the gum in my hair? Why wouldn't you send them to the back of the class, Mr. Runyon? Why would you send me to the back of the class? That does not make any fucking sense, Mr. Runyon. You fucking piece of... And then, so I have to go to the back of the class. But don't worry, I luckily did get the gum out of my hair. I got little scissors and chop, 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 chop. Chopped it out. But that was not very reasonable of Mr. Runyon. Proud to some, reasonable guy, he's above it all, but then he sends me to the back of the class for what someone else did, which makes no sense. So, just really unbelievable stuff that Mr. Runyon did. And then, so a few things about the later semester of that class. Mr. Runyon is a very strange, very unusual teacher because, first of all, he would always complain about, our class. He'd say, your class is, one of the worst. Your class is so bad. Your grades are so atrocious. You're really probably going to go nowhere in life, all you people, because don't pay attention, This is stuff he said. And he always said, you're one of the worst classes. None of my other classes, get grades like this, You're all mostly D's and F's in this class, None of my other classes, get grades like this. But then we looked at someone found out his grading papers and looked at the report cards, or it had all the grades for his classes, and it turns out that no, actually in his other classes they all get roughly the same grades as us the other periods. So it seems it's not a problem with us, it's a problem with Mr. Runyon. Also, Mr. Runyon is he does a weird stuff. When he says, alright, get out a piece of paper, and then, people get out a piece, this is one of my favorite things. he always complains about this. He says get out a piece of paper, then people get out a piece of paper, and then he gets mad. He always says, "Oh my god, why are you guys talking? All I said is get out a piece of paper. You know, it just takes 5 seconds to get out a piece of paper. You know, there's no reason for you to be talking while you get out a piece of paper. There's no reason. This is why you're falling incredibly behind. It's not efficient. You should just get out a piece of paper and that's it. There's no reason to be talking." I mean, he always says that. You know, he also, he complains at people if they have a water bottle. He says, "Oh, you know, you shouldn't have, water bottles, you know. Those, waste plastic. You know, instead you should be like me and have, this, water bottle that's this reusable one, you know, that's made of steel. You should be like me. Not, wasting plastic, you know. You don't need, so many water bottles, you know. You just have one reusable one like me." So he does that. One time some student they brought this, I don't know why they brought this to school, but they brought coconut butter lotion to school, and Mr. Runyon says, "Hey, give me that." And he grabs it from the student, and then he just says, "Let me see this." And then he turns it around, and he's looking at it, and he's like, and he's reading all the chemicals, in the ingredients section on the moisturizer. He's reading all the ingredients, all the fucking chemicals that are in the coconut butter lotion, just reading them all off in the whole class. And then, so one student says, "So what is that?" And then Mr. Runyon says, I don't know, but the question is, do you really want to be, using something with chemicals when you don't know what they are? You don't know if they're safe? Do you really want to be using something like this? You don't know if these chemicals are safe." And he also gives us pretty, interesting facts, though, Mr. Runyon, you know. For example, he tells us, pizza, boxes, they give you cancer. He gives us very interesting facts like that. So, a very interesting guy, I must say. I must say it was a terrible class, a very terrible teacher, but entertaining guy. Unfortunately, because I had fucking idiots in my group the last quarter, instead of the more intelligent people I had in the first one at the beginning, I failed the second semester. I got an F. But, oh well, what can you do? What's done is done. You live and you learn. Well, actually in my case, I don't live and I learn, because after that class, I continued to get many more Fs in other classes. So clearly, I did not live and learn. But, oh well. Nothing you can do about it now. Except make rants about it on British Fish Productions. Oh yeah, baby, more coming soon.